Across the screens, Lina, a vibrant young woman from Nepal with an adventurous spirit, often escaped into the world of social media after long days of routine life. It was through one of these digital wanderings that her destiny took an unexpected turn. While scrolling through her Instagram feed one quiet evening, her eyes locked on a photograph, a breathtaking view of the Swiss Alps bathed in golden sunlight. The snow-dusted peaks, the silence of the wilderness, and the poetic caption beneath the post stirred something deep within her. The photo was captured by Alex, a passionate photographer from Switzerland. His page was a gallery of nature's wonders, lakes that shimmered like mirrors, hidden villages, and cloud-kissed mountains. But beyond the beauty of his work, Lina felt drawn to his soul, which peeked through his thoughtful words and serene images. Without hesitation, she hit follow. Their interactions began innocently, Lina commenting on the colors in a sunset, Alex responding with curiosity about the culture and landscapes of Nepal. Messages turned into conversations, and soon, conversations flowed like rivers, unburdened and honest. They shared everything: photography tips, their childhood stories, their dreams of places yet to see. The time difference didn't matter. When Lina woke up, there'd be a message from Alex describing the misty mornings in the Alps. At night, she'd talk to him about the sounds of Kathmandu, the distant bells, bustling streets, and laughter echoing from tea shops. Over the months, what began as an unexpected friendship blossomed into something deeper, something warm, exciting, and real. The screen could no longer contain what they felt. One evening, as the Himalayan sky turned orange, Alex typed words that made Lina's heart leap. "What if we met in person? Switzerland. The mountains where it all began." Lina paused, staring at the message. The thought thrilled and terrified her, but in her heart she knew the answer. "Yes," she replied. "Let's make it real." When Lina landed in Switzerland, her heart pounded with nervous excitement. Zurich airport buzzed with travelers, but to her, it felt like everything moved in slow motion. She scanned the crowd until her eyes found him, a tall, familiar figure holding a handmade sign that read, "Namaste, Lina." His warm smile was even more genuine than on screen, and when their eyes met, time stood still. They walked toward each other as if the entire universe had orchestrated that moment. When they finally embraced, it felt like returning home to someone she had known forever. "Welcome to Switzerland," Alex whispered, his voice gentle and full of emotion, exploring Switzerland together. The next few days unfolded like scenes from a dream. On the first morning, Alex took Lina to Lauterbrunnen, a fairy tale village nestled in a valley surrounded by waterfalls. They sipped hot chocolate at a tiny cafe, their laughter mingling with the sound of rushing water. Later, they rode a scenic train to Jungfraujoch, the top of Europe, where they stood above the clouds, wind in their hair, gazing at the endless snowfields. One evening, Alex surprised Lina with a visit to a hidden alpine lake. Lanterns flickered along the trail, and a picnic awaited them by the water. They sat on a blanket, sharing stories and strawberries, their fingers intertwined. The stars mirrored in the lake, and for a while, they just sat in silence, soaking in magic. On another day, they visited a traditional Swiss village where Alex taught Lina how to ski, though they both ended up laughing more than skiing. She taught him some Nepali phrases, and he tried momo for the first time at a fusion restaurant he had found just for her. Every place they visited, every laugh they shared, deepened their connection. On their final day together, Alex took Lina to a mountaintop he had never photographed before, a place he had saved for someone special. As they stood at the edge, overlooking the majestic landscape, he pulled out a small notebook. "I started this journal the day we began talking," he said. "Every page is a piece of us. And this," he turned to the last page, "this is where our next chapter begins." He took her hand, his eyes full of sincerity. "Lina, this feels like the beginning of something incredible." Her eyes glistened. "It does, and I don't want it to end." Lina smiled, but there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. "It does, but I can't believe I'm leaving tomorrow. It feels like we just got here." Alex looked away for a moment, as if trying to stop time. "Yeah, it went by too fast." The wind carried their silence for a few seconds as they both took in the moment. There was heaviness in their hearts, knowing this chapter was ending, even as another one was waiting to begin. Lina reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Alex's face. "I wish we had more time," she whispered. "So do I," he replied softly. Then, without another word, they leaned in and kissed slowly, tenderly, with all the emotion of two souls who had crossed oceans to find each other. In that kiss, there was love, gratitude, and the quiet promise of a future not yet written. After their magical week in Switzerland, Lina and Alex returned to their own countries, their hearts full of memories that felt almost too perfect to be real. The days they spent exploring the Swiss countryside, sharing laughs over coffee in quaint cafes, and gazing at the stars on chilly nights had cemented their bond. For the next few weeks, everything between them felt perfect. Their relationship was everything Lina had ever dreamed of: warm, genuine, and full of joy. They talked on calls almost every day, spending hours chatting, teasing each other, and dreaming about the future they hoped to build together. Despite their physical distance, they shared every little moment of their lives' morning routines, silly jokes, late-night thoughts, as if they were side by side. It felt as though their hearts were always connected, no matter how many miles lay between them. But as they returned to their everyday lives, reality began to set in. Back in Nepal, Lina found herself missing Alex more than she had anticipated. She would often replay their moments together in her mind, longing to feel his presence once more. Although they continued their late-night conversations and exchanged messages throughout the day, something felt different. The excitement of their first meeting had given way to the challenges of maintaining a long-distance relationship. One evening, while Lina was sharing her day with Alex over a video call, she noticed that he seemed distracted. His responses were shorter, his usual warmth missing. "Is everything okay, Alex?" Lina asked, her voice tinged with concern. "Yeah, just a bit tired," Alex replied, forcing a smile. "Work has been hectic." Lina nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next few days, their conversations became more sporadic, and Lina noticed Alex posting pictures with new friends, particularly a girl named Sophie, who often appeared in his photos. Though Alex assured her that Sophie was just a friend, Lina couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Meanwhile, Alex was struggling too. He missed Lina deeply, but found it increasingly hard to balance his growing work responsibilities with the time difference. The distance began to weigh on him, and he noticed that Lina had started to sound more distant in their conversations. Misunderstandings crept in, as small comments or delayed replies were misinterpreted. One night, after a particularly rough day at work, Alex snapped during their call. "Lina, I don't understand why you're always so upset lately. It feels like nothing I do is ever enough," he said, frustration evident in his voice. Lina, taken aback by his tone, responded defensively. "I'm not upset, Alex. I feel like we're drifting apart. You're always busy, and it feels like you're slipping away." The tension between them grew, and what once was a haven of comfort and love turned into a source of anxiety for both. They started to avoid certain topics, not wanting to trigger another argument. Their calls became less frequent, and the messages that used to bring them joy now felt like a duty. Despite the growing distance, neither wanted to let go. They both knew that what they had was special, but they struggled to find a way to bridge the gap that had formed between them. Lina tried to focus on her work and hobbies, but her mind kept wandering back to Alex. She wanted to believe that they could overcome this, but doubts lingered in her heart. Alex, too, was torn. He missed the ease with which they used to communicate and the connection they had felt in Switzerland. He still loved Lina, but the distance was testing his patience and resolve. He wondered if it was fair to continue when it seemed they were only causing each other pain. As the weeks passed, they both began to realize that something needed to change. They couldn't continue like this, drifting further apart, but neither of them knew how to fix it or if it was even possible. One evening, after days of silence, Lina decided to reach out. She typed a message to Alex, her fingers trembling. "We need to talk, Alex. I don't want to lose what we have, but we can't go on like this. Let's figure this out together." Alex read the message. His heart felt heavy. He knew she was right. It was time to confront their fears and decide whether their love was strong enough to survive the challenges they faced. As he prepared to reply, he hoped that their connection, forged across screens and solidified in Switzerland, would be enough to bring them back to each other. Across the screen, Part 2. Lina's message had been a turning point. After days of tension and uncertainty, she and Alex finally sat down for a heart-to-heart conversation, albeit through the screen. They both laid their feelings bare, admitting their fears and insecurities. Alex apologized for his distant behavior, explaining the pressure he felt from work. Lina confessed her jealousy and how she had let it cloud her judgment. They agreed to make more time for each other and to communicate openly, no matter how difficult the topic is. Slowly, the warmth returned to their conversations. The laughter that had once filled their calls came back, and the connection they feared losing grew stronger. They even started planning their next meeting, this time in Nepal, where Alex would get to experience Lina's world. For a while, everything seemed perfect. They were in sync again, their love thriving despite the miles between them. But just as they began to settle into this new phase of their relationship, something unexpected happened. Lina's past reappeared in her life. One evening, Lina received a message from Rohan, an old friend from Nepal with whom she had once shared a deep connection. They had lost touch years ago, but Rohan was now back in the country and wanted to reconnect. Lina, seeing it as a harmless catch-up, agreed to meet him for coffee. She mentioned it casually to Alex, not thinking much of it. However, Alex's reaction was far from casual. His jealousy flared up, fueled by his insecurities about their long-distance relationship. The thought of Lina spending time with someone who had once meant so much to her made him anxious, and he couldn't shake the feeling that Rohan's reappearance was a threat to their relationship. "Why do you need to meet him, Lina?" Alex asked during their next call, his voice tinged with irritation. "It's not like you guys are close anymore." Lina was taken aback by his tone. "He's just a friend, Alex. There's nothing to worry about. I just want to catch up with him, that's all." But Alex couldn't let it go. His mind kept returning to the possibility that Lina's feelings for Rohan might resurface. Over the next few days, the issue became a source of constant friction between them. Alex's jealousy grew, and Lina began to feel suffocated by his distrust. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Alex finally said what had been on his mind for days. "Maybe we should take a break, Lina. I can't do this anymore. I can't deal with the thought of you with someone else." Lina's heart sank. She had never intended for Rohan's reappearance to cause such turmoil in their relationship. She wanted to explain, to make Alex understand that her heart belonged to him and no one else. But the words didn't come out right. Every attempt to reassure him seemed to make things worse. "Alex, please don't do this," she pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Rohan means nothing to me compared to you. You're the one I love." But Alex was too consumed by his jealousy to listen. "I can't do it, Lina. I can't keep wondering if you're thinking about him when you're with me." Lina felt a deep sadness wash over her. She knew Alex was speaking from a place of hurt, but she didn't know how to fix it. She had tried to reassure him, but it seemed like every word only pushed him further away. After a long, painful silence, Alex finally said the words Lina had been dreading. "Maybe it's better if we end things here, Lina. I don't want to keep hurting you, and I don't want to keep hurting myself." Lina's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to fight for their relationship, to convince Alex that they could work through this. But she also knew that if he didn't trust her, there was little she could do to change his mind. With a heavy heart, Lina agreed. "If that's what you want, Alex, then okay, I'll respect your decision." Their relationship, once so full of promise and love, ended with a few simple words exchanged over a call. As they said their final goodbyes, both Lina and Alex were left with a sense of loss, knowing that their love had been real, but that they hadn't been able to overcome the challenges life had thrown their way. Lina hung up the phone, feeling a deep ache in her chest. She knew it would take time to heal, but she also knew that sometimes, even the deepest love wasn't enough to keep two people together. And as she looked out at the night sky, she silently wished Alex well, hoping that one day they would both find peace with what had happened. After the breakup, Lina decided to give Alex some space, hoping that a few days apart might allow them both to cool down and rethink their decisions. She missed him terribly, but she knew that pressuring him wouldn't help. Instead, she focused on herself, trying to find some sense of normalcy in her daily routine. But as the days passed, Lina's anxiety grew. She had expected to hear from Alex, or at least see him reach out, but there was only silence. Finally, after a week, she decided to contact him, determined to clear the air and see if there was still a chance for them. Lina called, but Alex didn't answer. She tried messaging him, but her texts went unanswered. It wasn't until she tried calling him from a different number that she realized he had blocked her. Panic set in as she scrolled through social media, only to see Alex posting pictures of himself partying with new friends, surrounded by girls. Each photo felt like a dagger to her heart, and the realization that Alex was moving on so quickly was almost too much to bear. As if the emotional turmoil wasn't enough, Lina noticed something else she had missed her period. At first, she tried to dismiss it as stress, but as the days went on, the possibility of being pregnant became impossible to ignore. Her mind raced with fears and what-ifs. She tried reaching out to Alex again, hoping against hope that he would respond, but all her attempts were in vain. He had completely shut her out. Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, Lina bought a pregnancy test. Her hands trembled as she took it, her heart pounding in her chest. She waited for what felt like an eternity, staring at the test as it slowly revealed its answer. Positive. Lina's world crumbled around her. She was pregnant, and the man she loved was out of reach, living a life that seemed to have moved on without her. The reality of the situation hit her like a tidal wave, leaving her breathless and paralyzed with fear. She couldn't think, couldn't process what this meant for her future. Sitting alone in her room, the positive test still in her hand, Lina felt a deep sense of isolation. She had no idea what to do or how to move forward. All she knew was that her life had changed in an instant, and she was left to face it alone. Tears streamed down her face as she thought of Alex, the man she had once believed she would spend her life with, now unreachable, seemingly uncaring. The pain of his betrayal was unbearable, but the thought of what lay ahead navigating this new reality on her own was even more terrifying. In that moment, Lina knew she had to find the strength within herself to face whatever came next. But the path ahead was uncertain, and she couldn't help but feel lost, overwhelmed by the weight of what the future might hold. In her despair, Lina yearned for someone to talk to. She reached out to her best friend, Maya, who had always been her confidant through life's ups and downs. After an emotionally charged phone call where Lina poured out her heart, Maya listened with empathy and concern. "You're not alone in this, Lina," Maya said gently. "You need to talk to Alex in person. It's the only way to make him understand the gravity of the situation and how much it means to you. Sometimes, face-to-face conversations can change everything." Lina considered Maya's suggestion. The idea of confronting Alex directly, especially after he had blocked her and seemed to have moved on, was both daunting and hopeful. But she trusted Maya's judgment and decided to take her advice. If there was even a small chance that meeting Alex could help him understand her situation and perhaps rekindle their connection, she had to try. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation for Lina. She arranged her travel back to Switzerland, determined to speak with Alex and share the news about the pregnancy. She hoped that by meeting him in person, she could convey the seriousness of their situation and possibly find a resolution. When Lina arrived in Switzerland, her heart pounded with anticipation and anxiety. She went to the places where she knew Alex often hung out, hoping to find him. Her search led her to a cozy cafe near the mountains, a place they had visited together. There, she spotted Alex sitting with a group of friends. Taking a deep breath, Lina approached the table. Alex looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to confusion as he saw her standing there. She could see the tension in his eyes, but she couldn't turn back now. "Alex," Lina began, her voice trembling but resolute, "I need to talk to you. It's important." Alex's friends noticed the tension and quietly excused themselves, leaving Lina and Alex alone. The silence between them was thick with unspoken words. Lina took a seat across from him, her hands clasped tightly together. "I know you're probably wondering why I'm here," Lina said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "But there's something you need to know. I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air, and Alex's eyes widened in shock. His expression shifted from confusion to concern as he processed what Lina had just said. "I wanted to tell you in person because I felt you deserved to know," Lina continued. "I understand if you're angry or upset with me, but this is something we both need to face together. I still love you, and I hoped we could find a way to work through this." Alex sat in stunned silence, his mind racing. He looked at Lina, seeing the vulnerability and pain in her eyes. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and he felt a mix of emotions, regret, confusion, and a lingering affection for her. I don't know what to say," Alex finally replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is a lot to take in. I've been so caught up in my own feelings that I didn't see the bigger picture." Lina reached across the table, her eyes pleading. "Please, Alex, just listen. I didn't come here to cause trouble or to force you into anything. I just wanted you to know that this is real and that we need to decide together." For a moment, Alex looked away, grappling with his emotions. He thought about their past, the love they shared, and the pain of their recent breakup. It was clear that this was a turning point, but he wasn't sure if he was ready to face it. "I need time to process this," Alex said finally. "I need to think about what this means for us and for the future." Lina nodded, her heart heavy but hopeful. "Take whatever time you need, Alex. I just wanted to make sure you knew the truth." With that, Lina stood up to leave. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. She had done everything she could to communicate the seriousness of the situation, but the outcome was now in Alex's hands. The next few days were filled with anxious waiting. Lina focused on taking care of herself and preparing for whatever the future might hold. She knew that regardless of Alex's decision, she had taken the right step by confronting the situation head-on. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. If the story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next part of Across the Screens. Your support means the world to me. Across the Screen, Part 3. After Lina's emotional revelation, Alex was left in a state of turmoil. His mind raced with a multitude of thoughts, his feelings for Lina conflicting with the doubts planted by his friend, Sophie. Sophie, a longtime friend of Alex's, had always been supportive, but her recent behavior seemed more possessive than usual. As Alex confided in her about the situation, Sophie began to subtly cast doubt on Lina's intentions. "Are you sure about this, Alex?" Sophie asked one day, her voice laced with concern. "I mean, it could be a scheme. What if the baby isn't even yours? How do you know Lina's not playing some game?" Her words cut deep, and though Alex had initially dismissed them as mere jealousy, they began to take root in his mind. The idea that Lina might have an ulterior motive, or that the baby could belong to Rohan, gnawed at him. The more he thought about it, the more he questioned everything he had once believed to be true. As days passed, Sophie's intentions became clearer. She had started to distance herself from Alex's emotional turmoil, subtly reinforcing her views while quietly nurturing her own feelings for him. It was becoming apparent that her advice was not entirely altruistic. She was hoping to create a wedge between Alex and Lina for her own benefit. Despite the confusion, Alex knew he had to decide. Lina's time in Switzerland was running out, and he couldn't allow his doubts to stand in the way of potentially resolving their situation. He loved Lina deeply, but the fear that the baby might not be his was overwhelming. He had to confront her directly to seek the truth and find some clarity. Determined to find answers, Alex reached out to Lina, asking to meet once more before she returned to Nepal. Lina agreed, sensing the urgency and hoping for a chance to clear the air. They arranged to meet at the same cafe where they had talked before, a place that now holds so much weight for both of them. When Lina arrived, she found Alex waiting, his face a mix of determination and hesitation. She approached him, her heart pounding, hoping this meeting would bring them closer to a resolution. "Alex," Lina started, her voice steady but anxious. "I'm glad you agreed to meet. I know this situation is difficult, but I need you to understand." "Lina," Alex interrupted, "I've been thinking a lot since we last spoke. I've had doubts and fears, mostly because of things people have said. I need to know, beyond any shadow of a doubt, if this baby is mine." Lina's heart sank to his words, but she knew she had to address his concerns honestly. "Alex, I came here to tell you the truth because I care about you. I know it's hard to believe, especially with the distance and everything. But I assure you, this baby is yours. I have no reason to deceive you." Alex's eyes filled with pain as he listened. "I want to believe you, Lina. I really do. But I've been hearing things that make me question everything. What if—" Lina cut him off, her eyes pleading. "What if the baby isn't mine, Alex? But you must trust me, not just in this but in everything we've shared. I'm asking you to believe in us, to believe in what we had." As Alex grappled with his emotions, the reality of the situation began to sink in. He saw the sincerity in Lina's eyes, the love and desperation for him to understand. He realized that his doubts were clouding his judgment, fueled in part by Sophie's influence and his own fears. "I'm sorry, Lina," Alex said, his voice breaking. "I've been so conflicted. I know I've hurt you, and for that I'm truly sorry. I need time to process this and to figure out what's best for both of us." Lina nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. Just please know that I love you and that I'm here for you no matter what." With a heavy heart, Alex and Lina parted ways once more. Alex's decision to take time to process his feelings meant that their future remained uncertain. Though he loved Lina, his doubts and the influence of Sophie had cast a long shadow over their relationship. As Lina prepared to return to Nepal, she was left with a deep sense of loss and uncertainty. She hoped that Alex would find clarity and that, somehow, they might find their way back to each other. But for now, the future was as unclear as ever, and Lina could only wait and hope for what might come next. After his meeting with Lina, Alex was in a state of turmoil, his doubts and fears overwhelming his ability to think clearly. He returned to Sophie, seeking solace and advice. Sophie, who had been growing more attached to Alex with each passing day, saw this as an opportunity to solidify her place in his life. Sophie listened attentively as Alex recounted his conversation with Lina. Her concern seemed genuine, but beneath her sympathetic exterior, a plan was taking shape. She knew how much Alex was struggling and saw it as her chance to convince him that Lina's baby was not his. "Alex," Sophie said gently, placing a comforting hand on his arm, "I understand how hard this must be for you, but you shouldn't let your doubts consume you. Let's think through rationally. We can get a paternity test done. It will give us clear answers and put your mind at ease." Her suggestion seemed reasonable to Alex, who was desperate for any form of clarity. He felt a mix of relief and uncertainty, appreciating Sophie's support while still grappling with his conflicting emotions. Sophie's reassurance seemed to work, but her true intentions were far from altruistic. She didn't just want to help Alex. She wanted to make sure he stayed with her and away from Lina. She had developed deep feelings for Alex and was determined not to let him return to Lina, whom she viewed as a rival. While Alex was considering Sophie's advice, Sophie was busy with her own plans. She reached out to Rohan through social media, hoping to confirm her suspicions and manipulate the situation to her advantage. Sophie's approach was bold. She connected with Rohan, pretending to be a concerned friend of Alex's. Through their conversations, Sophie discovered that Rohan was also deeply in love with Lina. Rohan had been devastated by Lina's breakup with Alex and was still hopeful for a future with her. Sophie's heart raced as she realized that Rohan was as determined as she was to be with Lina. Sophie saw an opportunity to use Rohan's feelings to her advantage. She subtly manipulated the conversation, suggesting that if Rohan truly loved Lina, he would need to act quickly to secure their future together, potentially escalating the situation to keep Alex and Lina apart. Rohan, driven by his emotions and love for Lina, was persuaded by Sophie's manipulative suggestions. Sophie then returned to Alex with a renewed sense of purpose. "Alex, I've been talking to Rohan," she said, her voice filled with false concern. "He's passionate about Lina and seems to be very much in love with her. I'm worried that if you don't act fast, he might interfere. You need to make sure you're certain about the paternity before it's too late." Alex felt a renewed wave of panic. The idea of Rohan being a potential threat, coupled with Sophie's insistence on not letting Lina's baby be his, pushed him into a corner. The conflicting advice and emotions were overwhelming, and he felt trapped between his love for Lina and the escalating pressure from Sophie. As Alex struggled with these new revelations, Sophie continued to manipulate the situation. ensuring that Alex's doubts grew deeper while Rohan's intentions to win Lina back intensified. The tangled web of emotions, deceit, and manipulation created a chaotic environment where true feelings were obscured by ulterior motives. In this whirlwind of confusion, Alex's decision remained clouded. He knew he needed to resolve the situation, but with Sophie's influence and Rohan's determination, the path forward was more complicated than ever. As the situation spiraled, Alex was left with a difficult choice: to trust his heart and Lina's sincerity or to succumb to the manipulative forces around him. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. If the story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next part of Across the Screens. Your support means the world to me. Across the Screen, Part 4. Sophie's determination to keep Alex away from Lina grew stronger with each passing day. She knew that planting seeds of doubt in Alex's mind wasn't enough. She needed concrete evidence to push him over the edge. That's when she devised her most deceitful plan yet, one that involved Rohan and an old photograph of him and Lina. Sophie reached out to Rohan, who was eager to help, still driven by his deep feelings for Lina and the hope that he could win her back. Sophie explained her plan. They would take an old picture of Rohan and Lina, one that showed them together in a way that could be easily misinterpreted, and make it look like it was taken recently. The goal was to convince Alex that Lina had been unfaithful and that the baby she was carrying wasn't his. Rohan hesitated at first, feeling conflicted about deceiving Lina, but Sophie's persuasion was relentless. She convinced him that this was the only way to break Lina and Alex apart for good, paving the way for Rohan to step back into Lina's life. Driven by his own desperation, Rohan agreed to the plan. Together, Sophie and Rohan carefully selected an old photograph of him and Lina, one from when they had been close friends before Lina ever met Alex. In the picture, Lina and Rohan were standing close, smiling warmly at the camera. With a few tweaks and edits, Sophie made the photo look recent, ensuring it looked convincing enough to fool Alex. Once the doctored image was ready, Sophie sent it anonymously to Alex. The message was brief but devastating: "You deserve to know the truth." When Alex received the photo, his heart sank. Seeing Lina with Rohan, looking so happy and intimate, shattered the last remnants of trust he had in her. The image, combined with the doubts Sophie had already planted in his mind, was enough to convince him that the baby wasn't his and that Lina had been lying all along. Alex stared at the photo, his emotions a mixture of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. The woman he loved, the one he had wanted to build a future with, seemed to be deceiving him in the worst possible way. The thought of Lina with Rohan, and the possibility that she had been unfaithful, was more than he could bear. Fueled by this newfound certainty, Alex decided he would meet Lina one last time to end their relationship for good. There would be no more doubts, no more confusion. He needed closure, even if it meant breaking both of their hearts in the process. Alex reached out to Lina and asked to meet her. Lina, unaware of the storm brewing in Alex's mind, agreed, hoping that this meeting might bring them closer or at least give them a chance to talk things through. When they met, the tension was palpable. Lina could sense that something was deeply wrong, but she couldn't understand what had changed. She looked into Alex's eyes, searching for the love that had once been so strong between them, but all she saw was cold resolve. "Alex, what's going on?" Lina asked, her voice trembling with worry. Alex didn't waste any time. He pulled out his phone and showed Lina the photo. "Explain this," he demanded, his voice hard and unforgiving. Lina stared at the picture, her heart dropping into her stomach. She recognized it immediately. It was an old photo, taken years ago before she even knew Alex. The realization that someone had manipulated this image to make it look recent hit her like a freight train. "Alex, this picture is old," Lina began, trying to keep her voice steady. "I don't know who sent this to you, but it's not what it looks like. Rohan and I were just friends, and this was long before I met you. You must believe me." But Alex's mind was made up. The doubts, the fears, and the lies Sophie had fed him had taken their toll. He couldn't see past the image, couldn't hear Lina's words over the roar of betrayal in his heart. "I've given this a lot of thought, Lina," Alex said, his voice cracking. "I can't do this anymore. I can't trust you. I don't even know if the baby is mine. This must end. Lina's eyes filled with tears as she realized the gravity of the situation. She reached out to Alex, desperate to make him see the truth, but he stepped back, his decision final. "Goodbye, Lina," Alex said, turning away, unable to bear the pain any longer. As Alex walked away, Lina stood frozen, her world collapsing around her. She watched the man she loved disappear from her life, knowing that Sophie's lies and Rohan's complicity had destroyed everything they had built together. The pain was unbearable, but the knowledge that she was now truly alone, carrying a child that might never know its father, was a weight too heavy to bear. Lina was left to pick up the pieces, her heart shattered, and her future uncertain. Heartbroken and devastated by the turn of events, Lina made a difficult decision. She couldn't stay in a place filled with memories of Alex, nor could she bear to be around people who reminded her of everything she had lost. She decided to leave it all behind: her family, her friends, and the man she once thought she would spend her life with. The only thing she knew for certain was that she would start a new life with her baby, far away from everything she had ever known. As she prepared to leave Switzerland and return to Nepal, Lina's mind was consumed with a mix of sadness and determination. The betrayal by Alex, fueled by a picture she knew had been manipulated, had cut her deeply. But more than anything, she needed closure. She needed to confront Rohan about the photo and the role he had played in tearing her and Alex apart. Once she arrived back in Nepal, Lina wasted no time in reaching out to Rohan. She sent him a message, asking him to meet her. Rohan, unaware of Lina's true intentions, agreed without hesitation. He was still holding on to hope that Lina might give their relationship another chance, especially now that she was no longer with Alex. When they met, Lina's face was a mask of calm, though her emotions churned beneath the surface. She had rehearsed what she wanted to say 100 times on the flight home, determined to stay composed. "Rohan, I wanted to talk to you about something important," Lina began, her voice steady. Rohan, sensing the seriousness in her tone, nodded and waited for her to continue. "I received a picture from Alex," Lina continued, her eyes locking onto Rohan's. "It was an old photo of us, but someone made it look recent. It's the reason Alex ended things between us. I need to know, did you have anything to do with that?" Rohan's eyes widened, and he quickly shook his head, feigning innocence. "Lina, I swear, I don't know anything about that. The picture must have been from our past, back when we were together. It was probably posted on social media a long time ago. I would never do something like that to hurt you." Lina searched his face for any sign of deception, but Rohan's act was convincing. Despite her better judgment, she wanted to believe him. She was too exhausted, too broken to dig any deeper. "Okay," Lina said quietly, nodding. "I just needed to hear it from you." Rohan, sensing that Lina had accepted his explanation, relaxed slightly. "I'm sorry for what you're going through, Lina. You deserve so much better than what Alex did to you." Lina didn't respond. She had gotten the closure she needed, or at least as much as she was going to get. But her heart was already far from this place, from Rohan, and even from the memories of Alex. She had made up her mind to leave, to start over somewhere new where she could raise her child without the shadows of the past haunting her. She didn't tell Rohan about her plans, knowing that it would be better for both of us if he didn't know where she was going. This chapter of her life was over, and she needed to close it completely. Rohan, for all his past love and current concern, was a part of the world she was leaving behind. After their meeting, Lina went home and began planning to disappear quietly. She didn't want to involve her family, fearing that they might try to change her mind or that they would suffer from the stigma of her situation. She decided to tell them only after she had settled into her new life, far away. As she packed her belongings, Lina felt a strange mix of sadness and resolve. She was about to embark on a journey into the unknown, with only her unborn child as her companion. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: she would never look back. With everything in place, Lina left her old life behind, determined to build a new one where she and her baby could find peace and happiness. She walked away from the pain, the betrayals, and the love that had once been her whole world, knowing that whatever came next, she would face it with strength and courage. Rohan couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction as he realized that their plan had worked. Lina was gone, and the wedge between her and Alex was now seemingly irreversible. He reached out to Sophie, who had been his co-conspirator in this deceitful plot, to share the news. "Lina's out of the picture," Rohan said, his voice carrying a hint of triumph. "She confronted me about the photo, but I played it off. She believed me, or at least she didn't push any further." Sophie, at the other end of the call, felt a wave of relief. Their secret was safe, and the path was clear for her to move forward with her own plans. "Good," Sophie replied, her voice calm and composed. "We need to make sure the truth never comes out. From now on, we should keep our distance. No more contact. It's better for both of us." Rohan agreed. Their partnership had served its purpose, but it was time to sever ties and move on with their lives. They both knew that the consequences of their actions could be catastrophic if ever revealed, and neither was willing to risk it. With that, Rohan and Sophie went their separate ways, each carrying the weight of their deception in silence. Sophie, however, had no intention of stopping there. Now that Lina was out of the picture, she planned to turn her full attention to Alex, to show him that she was the one who truly cared for him. Determined to win Alex's heart, Sophie decided to visit him in his place. She knew he would be devastated, and she saw this as her opportunity to offer him the comfort and support he needed. Sophie arrived at Alex's doorstep, her heart pounding with anticipation. When Alex opened the door, he looked exhausted, his eyes dull and filled with pain. It was clear that the breakup with Lina had taken a toll on him. Sophie immediately stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him in a warm, comforting embrace. "Alex, I'm so sorry for everything you're going through," Sophie whispered, holding him close. "You don't deserve this, but you're strong and you can get through it. Maybe this is a sign that you need to start fresh, to take this as a lesson and move forward with your life." Alex didn't respond immediately. He was too overwhelmed by his emotions, the weight of the breakup pressing down on him like a heavy cloud. But Sophie's presence was comforting, her words soothing the raw edges of his pain. She had always been there for him, and now, in his darkest moment, she was the only one offering him solace. "You're right," Alex finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe this is a lesson. I need to move on, but it's so hard. I never imagined things would end like this." Sophie pulled back slightly, looking into Alex's eyes. "I'm here for you, Alex. I've always been here, and I always will be. We can start fresh together. You don't have to go through this alone." Alex nodded, though the emptiness in his heart remained. He appreciated Sophie's support, but deep down, he knew it would take time to heal from the wounds left by Lina. Still, having Sophie by his side made the burden a little easier to bear. While Sophie was working to secure her place in Alex's life, Lina was quietly making her own plans. She had found a good job in another city, far from the memories of her past. Without saying a word to anyone, not even her best friend, Lina packed her belongings and left her house. She was determined to start a new life, away from the pain and betrayal that had consumed her life. Her decision to leave without telling anyone was driven by a need for a clean break, a fresh start where she could focus on building a life for herself and her unborn child. As Lina settled into her new surroundings, she felt a mix of fear and hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was determined to make it on her own, free from the shadows of her past. The life she had once imagined with Alex was gone, but she was ready to embrace the future, whatever it might hold. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the screens, Part 5. Days had passed since Lina left, and Rohan was beginning to feel a growing sense of unease. He hadn't heard from her since their last meeting, and when he tried to contact her, all his calls and messages went unanswered. At first, he assumed she was simply taking some time to herself, but as the silence stretched on, worry gnawed at him. Unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong, Rohan decided to visit Lina's house. He arrived, hoping for some sign that she was all right. But when he knocked on the door, he was met with the anxious faces of Lina's family. They, too, were deeply concerned about her sudden departure. "Lina left without saying a word," her mother said, her voice trembling with worry. "We didn't know she was planning to leave. She didn't tell us anything." Rohan's heart sank as he listened to her family's concerns. It was clear that Lina had taken great care to keep her plans hidden from everyone, even those closest to her. "Did she leave any message or anything?" Rohan asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lina's father handed him a folded letter. "We found this after she left," he said, his voice filled with sadness. Rohan took the letter and quickly read through it. In it, Lina explained that she needed a fresh start, that she was overwhelmed by everything that had happened, and that she was leaving to find peace. She asked her family not to search for her, reassuring them that she was safe but needed to be alone. There was no mention of where she was going, no explanation for why she felt the need to leave so abruptly. The letter was filled with sadness and quiet determination, but it gave no clues as to her whereabouts. Rohan felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He knew that part of the reason Lina had left was because of the lies and deceits he had been a part of. But standing in her home, surrounded by her worried family, he couldn't bring himself to admit his role in pushing her away. Instead, he offered them what little comfort he could. "I'm sure she'll be okay," Rohan said, though his words felt hollow. "Maybe she just needs some time to herself. I'll try to find her, and if I do, I'll let you know." Lina's family nodded, though it was clear they were far from reassured. They thanked Rohan for his concern, and after a few more moments of strained conversation, Rohan left the house. As he walked away, his mind raced with thoughts of where Lina could be. He couldn't shake the fear that something terrible had happened, that she had taken this drastic step because of everything she had gone through. Determined to find her, Rohan reached out to all of Lina's friends, hoping one of them might know where she was. But each call, each message, was met with the same response: no one had heard from her, and no one knew where she had gone. Days turned into weeks, and Rohan's search yielded nothing. Lina had truly disappeared, leaving no trace of where she had gone. The more he searched, the more he realized how thoroughly she had severed ties with her old life. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Alex was slowly beginning to rebuild his life. The pain of losing Lina still weighed heavily on him, but with Sophie's unwavering support, he was able to start moving forward. Sophie had become his anchor, the person he leaned on as he tried to make sense of everything that had happened. Sophie was patient and understanding, always there to offer a listening ear or a comforting presence. Under her influence, Alex began to see the breakup as a painful but necessary lesson, a chance to learn and grow. Slowly, the memories of Lina began to fade, replaced by the present and the possibilities of the future. Though the scars of the past remained, Alex was determined to heal, to leave the heartbreak behind and embrace a new chapter in his life. With Sophie by his side, he felt like he could finally move on, even if the memories of Lina would always linger somewhere in the back of his mind. Lina had settled into a quiet, peaceful life, far from the chaos she had left behind. She had moved to a rural part of the country, a place where no one knew her or her past. The village was small and close-knit, and Lina quickly became a part of the community. Her neighbors and colleagues at work treated her with kindness and warmth, and soon they became like family to her. To protect herself and her unborn child, Lina had created a story, a small lie that her husband had passed away, and she had moved to this quiet place to start over. It was easier this way than explaining the painful truth of her past. The villagers, kind-hearted and compassionate, accepted her story without question. They admired her strength and determination, and they took care of her as if she were one of their own. As the months passed, Lina's sadness began to ease. Though the pain of her past still lingered, it was softened by the growing love she felt for the baby inside her. She was 8 months along now, and each day brought her closer to meeting the little one who had become the center of her world. The thought of holding her baby in her arms gave her hope and strength, helping her move forward, one step at a time. Lina's new life was simple but fulfilling. She had made a few close friends at her office and in her neighborhood, people who genuinely cared for her well-being. They would often visit her, bringing homemade meals and offering to help with anything she needed. In return, Lina shared her quiet moments of joy with them, her heart slowly healing with the support of her new community. Despite her efforts to move on, Rohan had not given up his search for Lina. He had scoured every place he could think of, reaching out to mutual friends, and even searching online for any trace of her. But Lina had been thorough in her disappearance. She had left no clues, no connections to her old life. As time passed, Rohan began to accept that perhaps this was for the best. Maybe it was fate's way of allowing them both to start anew, to move on from the tangled mess of their past. Though Rohan still thought of Lina, he slowly began to rebuild his own life. He focused on his career, made new friends, and tried to find happiness in the little things. The guilt and worry he had once felt began to fade, replaced by a sense of acceptance. He knew that wherever Lina was, she was strong enough to take care of herself and her baby. Meanwhile, Alex's life had taken a different turn. With Lina gone and no way to find her, he had thrown himself into his work. His business was flourishing, and the success gave him a sense of purpose that had been missing since Lina left. But more than that, he found himself growing closer to Sophie. Her constant support and unwavering love had helped him through the darkest days, and now he was beginning to see her in a new light. What started as friendship had blossomed into something deeper. Alex was falling in love with Sophie, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of peace and contentment. Sophie was everything he needed: kind, understanding, and patient. She had been there for him when he was at his lowest, and now he wanted to build a future with her. As Alex's business continued to grow, so did his relationship with Sophie. They spent more time together, planning for the future and dreaming of the life they could build together. Though the memories of Lina would always be a part of him, Alex was ready to move forward, to create a new life with Sophie by his side. In her quiet village, far from the people she had once loved, Lina was doing the same. Her heart was still healing, but with each passing day, she found more reasons to smile, more reasons to believe that she could build a new life for herself and her baby. Both Lina and Alex had taken different paths, but each was finding their way forward, letting go of the past and embracing the future with hope and determination. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the Screens, Part 6. Lina's life took on a new rhythm after the birth of her baby girl. The little one brought a light into Lina's world that she hadn't known was possible. Every day was filled with the sweet sounds of her daughter's laughter, the soft coos and cries that filled their small home with warmth. Lina's heart swelled with love every time she looked at her daughter, her little miracle who had given her life a new meaning. In the quiet village where Lina had found refuge, she had also found a sense of belonging. Her neighbors and colleagues, who had become like family, were overjoyed by the arrival of the baby. They showered Lina and her daughter with love and support, making sure she never felt alone. At work, Lina was admired for her strength and resilience, though she remained largely unaware of the quiet admiration one of her colleagues held for her. This person, who had watched Lina navigate the challenges of single motherhood with grace, found themselves drawn to her kindness, her quiet determination, and the way she lit up whenever she spoke of her daughter. Yet they kept their feelings to themselves, respecting Lina's apparent focus on her new life and her baby. Despite the happiness she had found, Lina couldn't completely escape her past. In the middle of the night, when the village was silent and her baby slept soundly, Lina would sometimes wake up, her heart racing from dreams of Alex. These dreams were bittersweet, filled with memories of what could have been, tinged with the pain of how it all ended. Though she tried to push the thoughts away, a part of her still yearned for the love she had lost. But Lina was determined. She had made a promise to herself that she would never look back, never seek out Alex, and never let her daughter know the truth about her past. The life she was building now was for her daughter, a life free from the complications and heartache of her old world. She resolved to keep her story buried deep within her, locked away where it could no longer hurt her or her child. Meanwhile, miles away, Alex's life was on an upward trajectory. His business was booming, gaining recognition far and wide. His name had become synonymous with success, and he was admired for his sharp mind and innovative ideas. But with every achievement, there were moments of quiet reflection, when the noise of his success would fade, and he would find himself alone with his thoughts. In those moments, Alex would sometimes think of Lina. Despite everything that had happened, the love he once felt for her still lingered, buried beneath the layers of betrayal and pain. He couldn't deny that a part of him still cared, still wondered what might have been if things had been different. But the betrayal, the lies, those were what held him back. what kept him from ever considering the possibility of reconnecting. Sophie's presence in Alex's life had grown stronger. She had been by his side through thick and thin, and now their relationship was blossoming into something more. Alex appreciated Sophie's loyalty, her constant support, and the way she made him feel at ease. He believed he had found someone who truly cared for him, someone he could build a future with. What Alex didn't know, however, was the truth behind Sophie's actions, the lies she had woven to keep him by her side, to push Lina out of his life forever. Sophie had succeeded in creating the life she wanted with Alex, but it was built on a foundation of deceit. And though Alex was unaware of it, the shadow of that deceit would always linger, casting a darkness over their relationship. As both Lina and Alex moved forward with their lives, they were each haunted in their own way by the past. Lina, with her silent dreams of Alex, and Alex, with the lingering love that still tugged at his heart. But both were determined to keep moving forward, to build the lives they believed were best, even if those lives were built on the ruins of what they once had together. Lina's life continued to flourish as she watched her daughter grow. Her little girl, now in school, was a beacon of light in Lina's world. She was beautiful, with bright eyes that sparkled with curiosity and a mind that absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Everyone in the village adored her, from her teachers who marveled at her intelligence to the neighbors who doted on her every chance they had. Lina's daughter excelled in school, her talents and sharp mind earning her a scholarship that ensured her future would be secure. Lina felt a deep sense of pride every time she looked at her daughter, knowing that all the sacrifices she had made were worth it. Her daughter was her world, and there was nothing more she wanted than to see her thrive. At work, Lina had built a close-knit group of friends who supported her and made her feel valued. Among them was a colleague who had quietly admired Lina from afar for a long time. This man, gentle and kind, had grown closer to Lina over the years. They shared lunches, talked about their lives, and leaned on each other during tough times. To Lina, he was a good friend, someone she could trust and rely on. But for him, it was more than just friendship. He had fallen in love with Lina, captivated by her strength, her kindness, and the way she had rebuilt her life after everything she had been through. He admired the way she cared for her daughter, the way she managed to balance work and motherhood with grace. Yet, he knew that Lina's heart was guarded, locked away from the possibility of love. One day, unable to keep his feelings to himself any longer, he decided to share his emotions with Lina. He confessed his love to her, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she might feel the same way. Lina listened to his words, her heart heavy with the weight of the past. She cared for him deeply as a friend, but love was something she couldn't allow herself to feel again. She had learned her lesson the hard way. Loving someone deeply only led to pain. Her heart had been shattered once, and she wasn't willing to risk it happening again. With kindness and honesty, Lina explained to him that while she valued their friendship greatly, she couldn't accept his love. Her focus was on her daughter and their future, and she wasn't ready to open her heart to anyone else. Though it hurt her to turn him down, she knew it was the right thing to do. The man respected Lina's decision, though he was heartbroken. He continued to be her friend, supporting her from the sidelines, even if his love remained unrequited. Meanwhile, Alex's life had become a whirlwind of business success. His company was growing rapidly, and with every new achievement, his name became more prominent in the business world. Sophie, who had stood by his side through it all, was eager to take their relationship to the next level. She wanted to marry Alex, to solidify their bond and start a new chapter together. But Alex, though he cared deeply for Sophie, wasn't ready to take that step. His mind was consumed with his business, with the expansion and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. He kept telling Sophie to wait, to give him more time so that when they did marry, it would be without any worries, without the distractions of his career. Sophie, though disappointed, tried to be patient. She loved Alex and wanted to be with him, but the delay in their marriage weighed heavily on her. She had worked so hard to be where she was, to secure her place in Alex's life, and she feared that the longer they waited, the more distant Alex would become. Despite their different priorities, Alex couldn't entirely shake the memories of Lina. Though he never spoke of her, there were moments, fleeting as they were, when her face would flash in his mind, when the echo of their past would stir something deep within him. But he pushed those thoughts aside, burying them under the layers of his busy life and his relationship with Sophie. As both Lina and Alex navigated their separate lives, they were each learning to cope with the scars of the past in their own ways. Lina, with her unwavering focus on her daughter, and Alex, with his relentless drive for success, were both moving forward. But the lessons of love and loss lingered in their hearts, shaping the choices they made and the paths they followed. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the Screens, Part 7. Rohan's life had taken a new direction after he got married. He had found a good woman who loved him, and they were building a life together. But despite the happiness he was trying to embrace, the shadow of his past still lingered in the back of his mind. Whenever he thought of Lina, guilt would creep in, reminding him of the lies and deception that had driven her away. Rohan often wondered if he should confess the truth to Alex, to come clear about the role he and Sophie had played in Lina's disappearance from Alex's life. But with Lina nowhere to be found, it felt pointless. She had vanished without a trace, and he couldn't imagine how bringing up the past would help anyone now. Still, the weight of his actions bore down on him, and the guilt was something he could never fully escape. Unable to bear it any longer, Rohan decided to contact Sophie. He needed to unburden himself, to let her know that he wasn't with Lina and that she had disappeared. When Sophie received his message, she was furious. She had spent years ensuring that the truth remained buried, and the last thing she wanted was Rohan stirring up the past. Despite her anger, Sophie listened to everything Rohan had to say. She was relieved that Lina was still missing, but the possibility of the truth coming out made her anxious. She convinced Rohan that the best course of action was to leave the past where it belonged, buried and forgotten. She warned him not to contact her again, promising that if they kept the secret, everyone's lives would remain intact. But Sophie couldn't shake the fear that somehow, someday, Alex might discover the truth. The thought haunted her, making her even more determined to secure her place in Alex's life. She knew that the best way to do that was to finally get married, to make their relationship permanent. Sophie decided to push harder, using the years she had spent by Alex's side as leverage. She confronted Alex, reminding him of how long she had waited, how much she had sacrificed for him. She told him that it was time for them to get married, that she deserved happiness too. Sophie framed it as if she had been selfless for too long, and now it was time for Alex to give her what she wanted. Alex, taken aback by her sudden intensity, asked for a few weeks to think it over. As he withdrew into his thoughts, he found himself reflecting on everything that had led him to this point. He remembered the love he had once had for Lina, the dreams they had shared. But that love had been tainted by betrayal, or so he believed. Sophie had been there for him through it all, supporting him, loving him, never wavering. What's the use of waiting any longer? Alex thought. Lina, my true love, betrayed me. It's time to move forward with the one who has stood by me, who loves me more than I love myself. Alex realized that it was time to close the chapter on Lina once and for all. He couldn't keep holding on to a love that had hurt him so deeply. Sophie had proven her loyalty and devotion to him time and time again, and he knew that she genuinely cared for him. If anyone deserved his commitment, it was her. With his mind made up, Alex decided that he would marry Sophie. He would leave the past behind and focus on building a future with the woman who had been by his side through everything. It wasn't the love story he had once dreamed of, but it was the one he had now, and he was determined to make the best of it. As he prepared to give Sophie his decision, Alex felt a sense of finality wash over him. He was ready to move on, to start this new chapter with Sophie. But deep down, a small part of him couldn't help but wonder what might have been if the past had played out differently, if the truth had been known. Lina had settled into a peaceful life in the small village, but as her daughter grew older, the questions began. "Where's my father?" the little girl would ask, her innocent eyes searching Lina's face for answers. Lina had always managed to cover it up with stories, but she knew that she couldn't keep the truth hidden forever. The time was approaching when her daughter would need to know more about her past. One day, Lina's close friend, who had become like family to her, suggested they take a vacation. "You and your daughter need a break," he said. "A chance to get away from work and the routine. Let's go somewhere far, where you can relax and she can explore." He even offered to join them, knowing that it would make the trip easier. Lina hesitated at first. It had been years since she had left the village, and the idea of traveling again brought back memories she had worked so hard to forget. But her daughter was almost 6 years old now, and Lina realized that it was time for her to see the world, to experience life beyond the village. It wasn't fair to keep her sheltered forever. After much thought, Lina agreed, and they decided on a month-long vacation to Vietnam. For the first time since starting her new life, Lina was leaving the village. The decision was both daunting and exciting. She knew that exposing her daughter to new places and experiences was the right thing to do. Meanwhile, across the world, Sophie was deep into the preparations for her wedding to Alex. Their relationship had withstood the test of time, and now they were finally ready to tie the knot. Sophie was thrilled and threw herself into the wedding planning with all her energy, determined to make it perfect. Alex, however, was preoccupied with his business. He had several important deals to close before the wedding and was scheduled to travel to Indonesia, Vietnam, and Australia for meetings. Sophie, though slightly disappointed that he wouldn't be around to help with the preparations, understood. She wished him luck and assured him that she had everything under control. As the day of departure approached, Lina felt a mix of emotions. This trip marked a new chapter in her life, one where she would have to start opening the world to her daughter. She hoped that this vacation would bring them both joy and a sense of freedom that had been missing for so long. With bags packed and hearts full of anticipation, Lina, her friend, and her daughter boarded the plane to Vietnam. At the same time, Alex was on his own flight, heading toward the same destination. Neither of them had any idea that their paths, which had once been so intertwined and then torn apart, were about to cross again. Vietnam is a place of vibrant culture, stunning landscapes, and bustling cities. For Lina, it was a chance to escape the confines of her past and create new memories with her daughter. For Alex, it was another step in his business journey, one that he hoped would set the stage for a prosperous future. As they both landed in Vietnam, the country became the backdrop for a series of events neither of them could have anticipated. Lina, excited for the adventures ahead, and Alex, focused on his business, were unknowingly drawn into each other's orbit once again, their lives on a collision course with the potential to unravel everything they had worked so hard to build. Lina was enjoying every moment of her vacation in Vietnam. The country's vibrant streets, rich culture, and delicious food made her feel like she had made the right decision to step out of her comfort zone. Her daughter was thrilled with the new experiences, her eyes wide with wonder as they explored different places. Lina's friend, who had been their constant companion, had taken the day off to rest, leaving Lina and her daughter to venture out on their own. That morning, they spent hours visiting local attractions, soaking in the beauty and history of Vietnam. By midday, both were hungry and decided to stop by a mall to grab something to eat and maybe do some shopping. The mall they chose was bustling with activity, and as they walked in, Lina couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. This trip was turning out to be exactly what she and her daughter needed. Unbeknownst to Lina, the same mall was also hosting a major business conference, one of the biggest events in the region, and Alex was the keynote speaker. He had just arrived in Vietnam after successfully concluding his business deals in Australia and was preparing for his speech. Alex had become a well-known figure in the business world, and his presence at the conference was highly anticipated. The day before, Lina had briefly seen Alex's name on TV while she was in her hotel room. A news segment had mentioned the conference and highlighted Alex as the main speaker, but Lina had dismissed it, thinking it was just someone else with the same name. After all, what were the chances that the Alex she knew, her Alex, could be in Vietnam at the same time as her? She quickly brushed it off and continued with her day. As Lina and her daughter entered the mall, they headed straight for the food court. The mall was crowded, with people coming and going, many of whom were there for the conference. Lina found a quiet corner where they could sit down and enjoy their meal. As they were eating, Lina's daughter asked to visit a nearby toy store. Smiling, Lina agreed, and after finishing their food, they headed toward the store. Just as they were about to enter the toy store, a group of conference attendees exited a nearby elevator, heading toward the conference hall. Among them was Alex, deep in conversation with a colleague, completely unaware of how close he was to the woman who had once meant everything to him. Lina, holding her daughter's hand, felt a strange sensation as they walked. It was as if time slowed down for a moment. She looked around, her instincts suddenly on high alert, but she saw nothing out of the ordinary. Shaking off the feeling, she continued into the store, while Alex passed by just a few feet away, oblivious to the near encounter. Inside the store, Lina's daughter eagerly picked out a few toys, and Lina indulged her, happy to see her little girl so excited. They spent some time browsing, and then Lina decided to pick up a few things for herself. As they approached the cashier to pay, the mall's PA system announced that the conference was about to begin, with a special mention of the keynote speaker, Alex's name echoing through the halls. This time, the mention of the name struck a chord with Lina. Her heart skipped a beat, and she felt a chill run down her spine. Could it really be him? She looked at her daughter, who was blissfully unaware, and then back at the cashier, her mind racing. But before she could dwell on it, her daughter tugged at her hand, eager to leave and explore more of the mall. Lina quickly paid and left the store, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. As they walked back through the mall, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the joy of spending time with her daughter. Lina knows, fate was setting the stage for a reunion that would bring the past crash into the present, forcing her to confront everything she had tried so hard to leave behind. And as Alex prepared to give his speech, unaware of how close he was to Lina, their lives were once again on the brink of a dramatic encounter. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the screen's Part 8, as Lina stood in the mall, she felt a growing unease. The weather outside had taken a sudden turn for the worse, with heavy rain and hailstones pounding against the glass walls of the building. An announcement echoed through the mall, urging everyone to stay inside until the storm passed. Lina's heart raced, her anxiety rising as she glanced around the bustling mall. She had a sinking feeling that this storm was more than just a coincidence. Holding her daughter's hand tightly, Lina forced herself to focus. "It's just a storm," she whispered to herself, trying to calm her racing thoughts. "I need to take care of my daughter." She knew she couldn't afford to let her fears get the best of her, especially not when her daughter was depending on her. The kids' play zone provided a safe distraction for her daughter, who was happily playing with other children, blissfully unaware of her mother's growing tension. Lina tried to keep herself calm, watching her daughter with a protective eye. She was determined to leave the mall as soon as the weather cleared, but for now, they were stuck. Meanwhile, the business conference has just concluded. Alex, now free from his responsibilities, realized he would be stuck in the mall due to the weather. Deciding to make the most of the situation, he thought he'd do some shopping for his upcoming wedding. Sophie had been handling most of the preparations, but Alex wanted to contribute something personal, a small gesture to show his appreciation. As he wandered through the mall alone, he found himself passing by the kids' play zone. He wasn't particularly interested in the children playing there, but something made him pause. A strange, almost magnetic pull drew his attention to the little ones laughing and running around. He scanned the area, his gaze moving from one child to the next, until his eyes fell on a little girl. She was playing joyfully, her laughter echoing in space. There was something about her that caught his attention, a beauty and grace that seemed almost familiar. She was different from the others, with an air of innocence that captivated him. As Alex watched her, a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. He couldn't quite place why he felt so drawn to her, but there was something about her that made him pause. It was as if he was seeing a piece of his past, something buried deep within him, reflected in this child. Then, as the little girl turned slightly, Alex's breath caught in his throat. There was something in her eyes, her expression, something that reminded him of Lina. His heart skipped a beat as he felt a rush of emotions, memories he had long buried suddenly flooding back. The resemblance was uncanny, and for a moment he was lost in a sea of confusion and longing. Lina, standing just a short distance away, hadn't noticed Alex yet. She was too focused on her daughter, trying to keep her safe and calm amidst the chaos of the storm. But the tension in the air was palpable, and deep down, she felt that something was about to happen, something she wasn't prepared for. As Alex continued to watch the little girl, the storm outside raged on, trapping everyone in the mall. He knew he should move on, continue with his shopping, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from the child. His mind raced with questions, doubts, and a growing sense of unease. Could it be, he thought? Could this little girl be? No, it's impossible. But the resemblance was too strong to ignore, and the more he looked, the more convinced he became that this child was somehow connected to him, to Lina. At that moment, Lina looked up, her eyes scanning the play zone. And there, just beyond the colorful barriers, she saw him, Alex, standing still, staring intently at her daughter. Her heart froze, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. She felt a wave of panic and disbelief, realizing that the person she had tried so hard to leave behind was now standing just a few feet away. The storm outside raged on, but the real storm was brewing inside the mall, as past and present collided in the most unexpected of ways. Alex hadn't seen Lina yet. As he walked away from the play zone, he shook off the strange feeling that had come over him. It must be my imagination, he thought. Just a coincidence. He tried to dismiss the thoughts, convincing himself that the little girl's resemblance to Lina was nothing more than a trick on his mind. With that, he turned his attention back to his original plan and continued to explore the shops. He was looking for something special, something meaningful to bring back for Sophie as a token of his commitment to their upcoming marriage. But despite his best efforts to focus, the strange encounter kept nagging at him, a feeling he couldn't quite shake off. Meanwhile, Lina's heart was pounding. She had seen Alex, and the sight of him standing there had sent a jolt of fear and sadness through her. She wasn't ready for this, wasn't ready to face him or confront the past. Desperately, she hoped that he hadn't noticed her, and that she could get out of the mall without him ever knowing she was there. Trying to stay calm, Lina called her daughter over. "Sweetheart, are you hungry or tired?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "Yes, Mommy, I'm hungry," her daughter replied, rubbing her eyes. "Let's go get something to eat, okay?" Lina said with a forced smile, trying to make everything seem normal. She led her daughter to the food court, her mind racing with thoughts about how to avoid Alex. Once the storm cleared outside, she would leave the mall as quickly as possible. That was the only plan she could think of. They found a quiet corner in the food court, and Lina ordered a simple meal for her daughter. As they ate, Lina kept her eyes down, avoiding looking around too much, afraid she might see Alex again. She was tense, but her daughter's innocent chatter about the day's adventures helped keep her grounded. After finishing her meal, her daughter grew sleepy, and soon she was fast asleep in Lina's lap. Lina gently stroked her daughter's hair, feeling a small sense of relief that the little girl was resting. This gave her some time to gather her thoughts and figure out the next steps. The storm outside was still raging, but at least inside, for a moment, Lina could breathe. Just as she started to relax, Alex walked into the food court. He had been wandering the mall for a while, trying to clear his head. The strange encounter at the play zone still lingered in his thoughts, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on grabbing a quick bite before heading back to his hotel. He found a seat at a corner table, not far from where Lina was sitting, and settled in with his food. Absent-mindedly, he began scrolling through his phone, checking emails and messages. But then, as he glanced around the food court, his eyes landed on Lina. For a moment, he froze, his heart skipping a beat. There she was, right in front of him with the little girl from the play zone, her daughter. His mind raced as he connected the dots. The child he had been inexplicably drawn to was Lina's daughter. Shock and disbelief washed over him. What were the chances? After all these years, here they were, in the same place at the same time. And that child, could it be? Could she be his? Lina hadn't noticed Alex yet. She was focused on her sleeping daughter, lost in her own thoughts. But Alex couldn't take his eyes off them. The familiar wave of emotions, love, hurt, betrayal rushed back, flooding him with memories of their past. He knew he couldn't just sit there. He had to talk to her, had to understand what was going on. But how could he approach her? What would he even say? Taking a deep breath, Alex stood up, gathering the courage to walk over to Lina. This unexpected encounter was about to unravel everything they had buried, bringing the past crashing into the present in a way neither of them could have predicted. "Hi, Lina, how are you?" Alex began. Lina looked surprised to see him approach her. "I'm doing well," she replied. "I'm surprised to see you here in Vietnam," Alex said. "What brings you here?" Lina quickly replied. "I'm here on vacation with my husband and daughter." "Husband? You mean Rohan?" Alex asked. "I didn't marry Rohan," she said before waking her daughter. "It's late, I have to go." With that, Lina hurried away, leaving Alex to stand there and watch them leave. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Seeing Lina after all these years had stirred up emotions he thought he had buried long ago. But it was her words that left him reeling. "I didn't marry Rohan." The statement echoed in his mind, raising more questions than answers. As Lina disappeared into the crowd, Alex felt a deep sense of confusion and frustration. He couldn't make sense of why she would lie about being on vacation with her husband, only to deny marrying Rohan. And who was the little girl with her? Could she really be Rohan's daughter, as he had always assumed? But if that was true, why was Lina acting so evasive? Lost in thought, Alex suddenly jolted back to reality by the ringing of his phone. It was Sophie. He hesitated for a moment before answering, not sure how to explain what had just happened. When he picked up, Sophie's cheerful voice filled the line. She asked about his flight and how his work was going. Alex took a deep breath and decided not to mention Lina. "Everything's going well," he said, trying to sound normal. "But there's been a slight change of plans. I have another meeting here, so I'll need to stay a few more days." Sophie was understanding, though she expressed a bit of disappointment. "I was hoping you'd be back soon so we could finalize the wedding preparations. But work comes first, right?" she said with a light laugh. "Yeah, just a few more days," Alex replied, feeling a mix of guilt and unease. "I'll let you know as soon as I'm done." After hanging up, Alex found himself standing alone on the food court, the bustling noise of the mall fading into the background as he replayed the encounter with Lina in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that there was more to the story than what Lina had told him. He knew he couldn't leave Vietnam without getting to the bottom of it. The past had resurfaced, and he couldn't ignore it any longer. Determined, Alex decided to stay in Vietnam and find out the truth about Lina, her daughter, and what really happened all those years ago. Meanwhile, Lina hurried back to her hotel room, her heart pounding. She had managed to avoid a direct confrontation with Alex, but the encounter had shaken her. Seeing him had brought back a flood of memories and emotions she had tried so hard to suppress. But most of all, it reminded her of the secret she had kept for so long, the secret that could change everything if Alex ever found out. As she put her daughter to bed that night, Lina felt a deep sense of unease. She knew that leaving the mall without a proper conversation with Alex had been the right decision now, but she also knew that this wasn't the end. Sooner or later, Alex would find out the truth. And when he did, everything she had built over the past few years could come crashing down. But for now, all she could do was wait and hope that the past would stay buried, at least for a little while longer. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the Screens, Part 9. Lina spent the last few days in Vietnam trying to push away her worries. She focused on enjoying the time with her daughter and friend, making the most of the beautiful sights and experiences. They visited markets, explored temples, and took boat rides along the rivers. Her daughter's laughter and excitement filled Lina with bittersweet joy. She was determined to make this trip a precious memory, something that would overshadow the brief, unsettling encounter with Alex. But deep down, the encounter gnawed at her. She couldn't tell her friend the truth, couldn't burden him with the complicated past that she had kept hidden. And so, she resolved to leave Vietnam without further incident, hoping that once they returned home, she could put it all behind her again. Meanwhile, Alex was restless. The more he thought about his brief conversation with Lina, the more questions he had. Why had she vanished from social media? Why had she kept her life so private? And who was the little girl with her? He couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something crucial. Desperate for answers, Alex tried to find Lina online but came up empty. No social media profiles, no traces of her life. It was as if she had disappeared entirely from the digital world. Frustrated, he turned his search to Rohan, hoping to find some clues. What he found instead was a picture of Rohan with another woman, clearly happy and married. This confirmed Lina's claim that she hadn't married Rohan, but it only deepened the mystery. Why would Lina lie about her husband's identity but tell the truth about not marrying Rohan? And why was she so determined to avoid him? The questions plagued Alex, leaving him more confused and uncertain about everything, including his upcoming marriage to Sophie. But with his business obligations and the wedding preparations looming, Alex knew he couldn't afford to stay in Vietnam any longer. He needed to focus on his life with Sophie, despite the doubts that were beginning to creep in. He couldn't be selfish. He had made promises to Sophie, and she had stood by him through thick and thin. He owed it to her to follow through with their plans, even if his heart was still wrestling with unresolved feelings for Lina. Lina, on the other hand, felt a wave of relief as their plane touched down back home. The vacation had been a good distraction, but now she was ready to return to the life she had carefully built. She was determined to put the encounter with Alex behind her, to focus on her daughter and their future. But she couldn't deny the lingering unease in her heart. She knew Alex wouldn't let things go so easily, especially not after seeing her with her daughter. And as much as she wanted to believe that everything would be all right, she couldn't shake the feeling that the past wasn't done with her yet. For now, though, she was content to be back in her safe, familiar world, far from the chaos and confusion of Vietnam. She hoped that with time, the memories of Alex would fade again, and she could continue living the life she had chosen for herself and her daughter. But deep down, she knew that some things were impossible to forget, no matter how hard she tried. As the days passed, Alex found himself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts of Lina. The impending wedding with Sophie loomed over him, but his mind kept drifting back to the mysterious encounter in Vietnam. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to Lina's story, something she wasn't telling him. Despite the years that had passed, he felt an inexplicable pull towards her, a need to understand what had really happened. Sophie, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in the wedding preparations. She was excitedly choosing flowers, finalizing the guest list, and picking out her dress. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and everyone around her could see how happy she was. Alex, however, struggled to match her excitement. He put on a good face, but his heart wasn't fully in it. During his office hours, Alex would often find himself lost in thought, trying to figure out how to learn more about Lina without alerting Sophie. One day, he decided to call Lina's old office, hoping to get some information on where she might be now. When he finally got through, he was shocked to hear that Lina had left that job many years ago. No one there had any current information on her whereabouts. This revelation only deepened Alex's curiosity. Why had Lina left her job so abruptly? Where had she gone? And why had she disappeared so completely from his life? The questions swirled in his mind, making it even harder for him to focus on the wedding. Meanwhile, Lina remained blissfully unaware of Alex's internal turmoil. She had returned home from Vietnam, ready to put the past behind her once again. But the news of Alex's success as a businessman reached her, and it stirred something inside her. She hadn't kept tabs on him, but it was impossible to ignore his growing fame. It was all over the news, in magazines, and on social media. She knew he had become a big name in the business world, and she couldn't help but wonder how different things might have been if they had stayed together. Despite these thoughts, Lina remained resolute in her decision to keep her life with her daughter private. She had built a new world for herself, far away from the complications of her past, and she was determined to protect it. But the knowledge of Alex's success, combined with their unexpected meeting in Vietnam, made it harder for her to push him out of her thoughts completely. As the wedding day approached, Alex found himself more torn than ever. He knew he had to decide whether to commit fully to his life with Sophie or find out the truth about Lina, no matter what the cost. The weight of this choice hung heavily on him, casting a shadow over what should have been a joyous time. The closer the wedding got, the more Alex's mind raced. He needed answers, but he didn't know where to turn. Sophie was blissfully unaware of his internal struggle, too caught up in the excitement of their upcoming marriage to notice his distant behavior. But Alex knew he couldn't keep going like this. He had to figure out what really happened with Lina before he could move forward with Sophie or risk carrying the uncertainty with him for the rest of his life. As Lina read the news about Alex's upcoming wedding, a wave of mixed emotions washed over her. Sadness, relief, and a tinge of nostalgia all battled for her attention. She had always known that a day like this might come, but seeing it confirmed in headlines still stung. Yet, she reminded herself that this was for the best. Alex had clearly moved on, and their lives were now on separate paths. The love they once shared was a distant memory, one that she had buried deep in for the sake of her daughter. Determined to stay strong, Lina refocused her energy on building a secure future. She knew that her daughter depended on her, and she was resolved to provide the best life possible. Financial independence and emotional resilience became her new goals. She started looking for better job opportunities and even considered furthering her education to ensure they would never have to depend on anyone else. Meanwhile, back in his world, Alex was grappling with his own issues. One evening, after a long day at the office, he realized he had left his laptop at work. Needing to check some emails, he decided to use Sophie's laptop, which she had left in his room. As he opened it, the browser automatically logged into Sophie's social media accounts. He had never been one to invade her privacy, but something compelled him to look further. Curiosity got the better of him, and he clicked on her messages. As he scrolled through, a familiar name caught his eye, Rohan. The sight of that name sent a jolt through him. Why was Sophie in contact with Rohan? How did they even know each other? Questions started swirling in his mind as he read through the messages. The exchange between Sophie and Rohan wasn't extensive, but it was enough to raise his suspicions. There were mentions of the past, subtle references that hinted at something more than just a casual acquaintance. The more he read, the more uneasy he became. It didn't add up. Why would Sophie, his soon-to-be wife, be talking to someone from Lina's past? His mind raced back to the moments when Lina had mentioned not marrying Rohan and how she had evaded his questions about her current life. Could there be something he was missing? Something that Sophie and Rohan knew but he didn't. The more he thought about it, the more the puzzle pieces seemed to be falling into place, but not in a way that brought any comfort. Alex closed the laptop, his heart pounding. He knew he had to confront Sophie, but how? What would he even say? The wedding was just around the corner, and this revelation could change everything. Doubts about Sophie's honesty and the true nature of her relationship with Rohan gnawed at him. That night, as Sophie chatted excitedly about wedding plans, Alex could barely focus. His thoughts were consumed by the messages he had seen and the secrets they hinted at. He realized he couldn't go forward with the wedding until he got to the bottom of this. But how could he do that without blowing everything up? And what if the truth turned out to be something he wasn't ready to face? For the first time in a long while, Alex found himself at a crossroads, torn between the life he had built and the unanswered questions from his past. Meanwhile, Lina, unaware of the turmoil brewing in Alex's life, continued to focus on her daughter and her future, believing that the past was finally behind her. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the screens, Part 10. Alex knew that he couldn't confront Sophie without understanding the full truth, so he decided to dig deeper. The next day at the office, he made a discreet call to Lina's old home number, hoping to find some answers. When he finally got through, the response left him even more baffled. Lina had left her house years ago and completely disappeared. The person on the other end had no idea where she had gone or why. This only fueled Alex's suspicions. There had to be a serious reason behind her disappearance. Realizing that the situation was more complicated than he had initially thought, Alex considered his next move carefully. He thought about reaching out to Rohan directly, but knowing that Rohan was in contact with Sophie made him hesitant. If Rohan was involved in some way, confronting him over the phone might not yield to the truth. Alex decided the best course of action was to meet Rohan in person, where he could observe his reactions and get the answers he needed. Determined to uncover the truth, Alex came up with a plan. He told Sophie that he had an urgent business matter to attend to and needed to leave the country for a few days. He reassured her that he would be back in time for their wedding. Sophie, though disappointed, believed him without question. She knew how dedicated Alex was to his business, and it wasn't unusual for him to handle emergencies on short notice. With Sophie, none the wiser, Alex booked a flight to the city where Rohan lived. He couldn't shake the feeling that this trip would either confirm his worst fears or bring him the clarity he so desperately needed. As he packed his bags, his mind was racing with questions. Why had Lina disappeared? What was Sophie hiding? And most importantly, was there any way to unravel the web of secrets without destroying everything he had built? As Alex boarded his flight, he was more determined than ever to get to the bottom of things. He knew that his entire future, his marriage, his happiness, and even his business could depend on what he discovered in the next few days. The truth, whatever it was, had to come out, and Alex was ready to face it head-on. Alex managed to track down Rohan's office address and went there to meet him. Rohan, who had never met Alex in person, was initially unaware of who he was. It wasn't until Alex introduced himself that Rohan realized who was standing before him. Alex's demeanor was serious, and it was clear that he wasn't there for a casual visit. He was there to uncover the truth. Alex didn't waste any time. He told Rohan that he had seen the messages between him and Sophie and had come without Sophie's knowledge. Alex explained that he needed to know the truth, as it would affect the lives of everyone involved. He even mentioned how he had unexpectedly run into Lina in Vietnam, but hadn't had the chance to have a proper conversation with her. This encounter had only deepened his suspicions, leading him to seek out Rohan. Rohan, who had been living with the guilt of his actions for years, was visibly shaken. He knew that his involvement in the deception had caused Lina to disappear and had brought suffering to her family. The weight of his guilt became too much to bear, and he decided it was time to come clean. He confessed everything to Alex: the plan he and Sophie had devised to deceive him, the fake pictures, and the lies that had driven Lina away. At first, Alex found it hard to believe. The idea that Sophie, someone he had trusted and was about to marry, could be capable of such deceit was almost too much to comprehend. But Rohan provided proof of the old conversations, the orchestrated plan, everything. As Alex read through the messages, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Rohan, fearing his own marriage, expressed his deep regret and apologized profusely to Alex. He knew that his actions had caused irreparable harm, and he feared that the truth coming out could ruin his own life as well. But he understood why Alex needed to know, and he accepted the consequences of his actions. Alex was left reeling from the revelation. The truth was out, but it left him with even more questions. What should he do now? Should he confront Sophie, or should he try to find Lina and make amends for the past? The answers weren't clear, but one thing was certain: his life would never be the same again. Rohan revealed to Alex that he had spent months searching for Lina, but eventually gave up, believing that everyone had moved on with their lives. However, he assured Alex that he was willing to help in any way possible to make things right. Alex, driven by the guilt of not believing in Lina's love and desperate to find her and his daughter, decided to use all the resources at his disposal. Lina, meanwhile, was focused on her job and raising her daughter. She had created a new life for herself, one that seemed stable and peaceful. She believed she could live her life without looking back, unaware of the storm that was brewing. Determined to find Lina, Alex used his influence and connections to gather information. He reached out to airlines to trace who had visited Vietnam a few months earlier. After some investigation, he managed to obtain the travel records of Lina and her daughter. The records revealed that they were living in a rural part of the country, a place where few people traveled. With this information, Alex's hope reignited. He and Rohan decided to make the journey together to the village where Lina was now living. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but Alex was resolute in his decision to find Lina, apologize, and learn the truth. As they prepared for their trip, both men were filled with a mix of emotions: hope, guilt, and uncertainty. They were about to step into a part of their lives that had been left in the dark for years, and they knew that whatever they found would change their lives forever. Alex and Rohan traveled to the village where Lina was living, and after some inquiries, they found the house where she resided. As they stood in front of her home, Alex's heart raced, his eyes filled with tears. His mind was flooded with questions. What if she's married? What if she doesn't forgive me? Despite these fears, he knew he had to face whatever awaited him. The house was empty when they arrived, and a neighbor informed them that Lina was at work. The neighbor, curious about these strangers, asked who they were. Not wanting to reveal too much, they said they were there for work-related matters. Deciding to wait, Alex and Rohan sat in the garden, a beautiful space filled with flowers, vegetables, and herbs. It was clear that Lina had built a peaceful life here. After 2 hours, Lina returned home with her daughter. The moment she saw Alex and Rohan waiting for her, she was taken aback, her heart skipping a beat. She looked at her daughter, who was curiously asking who the men were. Trying to stay composed, Lina told her daughter, "I also have to find out. Why don't you go to the neighbor's house and watch TV? Mummy will come to pick you up soon." As her daughter ran off to the neighbor's house, Lina turned back to Alex and Rohan, her heart pounding. She knew this moment was inevitable, but she wasn't prepared for the flood of emotions that came with it. The past she had tried so hard to leave behind was standing right in front of her, and she had no idea what would happen next. Lina stood in shock, seeing both Rohan and Alex together. The confusion and surprise were evident on her face as she asked, "How did you two meet, and why are you here together?" The questions tumbled out, her mind racing to make sense of the situation. Alex, filled with guilt and regret, remained silent as Rohan stepped forward. "Let me explain everything," Rohan said. He recounted the entire story, how he and Sophie had schemed against her, manipulating the situation for their own gain. Lina listened in disbelief, her heart sinking as the truth unraveled. The betrayal cut deep, and she felt sorry not just for herself, but for Alex and especially her daughter, who had unknowingly suffered because of the lies and deception. Alex, with tears in his eyes, asked for her forgiveness. "It's not your fault," Lina said, her voice heavy with emotion. "You believed what they told you, and I can't blame you for that." She then turned to Rohan, her voice steady but filled with hurt. "I never imagined you would do something like this, Rohan. You were my friend." Rohan, overwhelmed with guilt, begged for her forgiveness. "I've been living with this guilt for years, Lina. I'm so sorry." Rohan, sensing that Alex and Lina needed privacy, said, "I'll leave you two to talk. I'll be outside." He stepped out, leaving Alex and Lina alone. Alex, tears streaming down his face, said, "I'm so sorry, Lina. You've always been in my heart. I was a fool not to see the truth." Lina, feeling a mixture of relief and sorrow, forgave him. "I'm relieved that you finally know the truth, Alex. Now, we can both move on without any guilt. I can live my life without hiding anymore, and you can live yours without the burden of lies." They stood there in the quiet of Lina's home, the weight of the past slowly lifting as forgiveness and understanding took its place. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story. Across the screen's part 11, final part, Lina returned with her daughter, who was a bit surprised to see Alex and Rohan. Lina introduced them as her friends, and her daughter, excited to meet new people, especially since she rarely saw anyone outside their small village, was happy to spend time with them. They all spent a few hours together at Lina's house, talking and getting to know each other. Before leaving, Alex and Rohan assured Lina they would return within a week. As they left, Lina felt a wave of relief. The truth was finally out, and she was surprised by how things had unfolded. She couldn't believe Sophie had gone to such lengths, even knowing Lina was pregnant. But now, Lina felt a sense of peace. Looking at her daughter, she realized how important it was for her to have a relationship with her father. Lina also began to miss her family deeply. It had been so many years since she left home, and now she felt it was time to reconnect and introduce her daughter to her roots. Meanwhile, Alex and Rohan left the country with a shared purpose to confront Sophie and finally bring closure to the past. When Alex returned home, He was greeted by the sight of all the wedding preparations in full swing. Sophie, excited to see him, rushed over, but Alex's expression was serious. He told her they needed to talk, but Sophie, brushing off his tone, said there was nothing urgent to discuss and that they could talk after the wedding. Determined, Alex called Rohan into the room. The moment Sophie saw Rohan, her face paled and fear crept into her eyes. "Rohan, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Alex, confronting Sophie, said, "I know everything. I know the truth about what you did." Tears welled up in Sophie's eyes as she tried to plead with Alex. "Will you at least listen to me?" But Alex, with pain in his voice, replied, "There's nothing left to listen to. I never imagined you would do something like this to me and hide the truth for so many years." Rohan then revealed everything to Sophie, laying bare the deceit and manipulation that had torn their lives apart. Sophie, overwhelmed with guilt and sadness, admitted, "Alex, I don't know why I did this to you. I have been madly and deeply in love with you since high school, but you never saw me as anything more than a best friend. When I found out about Lina, I felt so insecure, and I acted out of desperation. I don't know how to ask for your forgiveness, but please forgive me." Alex, filled with anger and sorrow, responded, "How can I forgive you, Sophie? Do you realize what you've done? You kept me away from my own daughter. She doesn't even know her father is alive. How could you be so cruel?" Alex, determined and resolute, told Sophie to stop the wedding preparations immediately. He asked her to pack her things and move out of his house. "I need to make an announcement to call off the wedding in the media and take care of a few other things," he said before leaving. He also told Rohan to stay at the house and make himself comfortable, assuring him that he would be back soon. Sophie, left in shock, didn't know how to react. The reality of the situation was sinking in, and she felt lost. Rohan, seeing her distress, tried to talk to her. "We shouldn't have done this, Sophie. It's our fault we lied, and the truth had to come out eventually. Stop lying to yourself and give yourself some time. You need to move on with your life and make a fresh start." With tears in her eyes, Sophie retreated to her room, packed all her belongings, and quietly left Alex's house. Lina knew she had to come clean with everyone, her colleagues, neighbors, and most importantly, her daughter. She gathered the courage to share the truth, telling them the whole story from the beginning to the end. She explained why she had kept the truth hidden for so long and asked for their forgiveness for the lies she had told. She also expressed her deep gratitude for the care and support they had given her and her daughter over the years. The revelation shocked everyone, but after hearing the full story, they were happy for her and understood her situation. They encouraged her to reconnect with her family, who must have been worried about her all these years. Lina decided that she would go and meet her family with Alex and their daughter, and finally reveal the truth to them. Her primary concern, however, was how to tell the truth to her daughter and how her daughter would react. It weighed heavily on her mind, but she knew it was something she had to do, and soon. Rohan spent a few days with Alex before they booked their flights. Rohan went home, and Alex headed straight to Lina and his daughter. When he reached Lina's house, he shared everything: how he had confronted Sophie, called off the wedding, and now they could finally start their life together. Lina was still nervous about how to tell their daughter the truth, but Alex reassured her, confident that their daughter would be happy to know. Together, they sat down with their daughter and told her everything, without holding anything back. As they spoke, their daughter listened carefully and then surprised them by saying, "I knew my father was alive. I never believed the story about him dying, but I didn't want to ask questions and make Mummy sad." Their daughter's words brought tears to their eyes, and they were all overwhelmed with emotion, feeling a deep sense of relief and happiness. Alex pulled both Lina and their daughter into a tight hug, grateful that everything had finally worked out. He then told them that he wanted them to come live with him in Switzerland, where they could start fresh as a family. Before leaving the village, Alex took the time to thank all the neighbors and friends who had cared for Lina and their daughter over the years. As they made their way to Lina's family home, Lina couldn't shake the nerves. She wondered how her family would react to seeing her again after all these years and learning the truth about everything that had happened. The anticipation was overwhelming, but she knew it was a necessary step toward healing and moving forward together. When Lina, Alex, and their daughter arrived at Lina's parents' home, Her mom and dad were shocked, but overjoyed to see them. Tears flowed as they embraced Lina, overwhelmed with relief and happiness after so many years of wondering where she had gone and why she had left without an explanation. Lina sat down with her parents and shared the entire story, everything she had been through, and how she had recently reconnected with Alex. Now, they wanted to start their life together as a family. Her parents listened intently, and though they were saddened by the hardships Lina had endured, they were also grateful that things had worked out in the end. Lina's parents suggested that they get married before moving to Switzerland. Lina agreed, but she insisted on a small, intimate ceremony with just her family. They quickly prepared for the wedding, and at a simple yet beautiful ceremony, Lina and Alex were married, surrounded by those they loved most. With the wedding behind them, Alex, Lina, and their daughter prepared for their new life in Switzerland. They applied for visas, made all the necessary arrangements, and soon they were on their way to start their new chapter together. In Switzerland, they settled into their new home, finally able to live the life they had always dreamed of. Together, they built a happy and fulfilling life, filled with love, understanding, and the promise of a bright future. And so they lived happily ever after. The end. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to hear the next part of the story.